So as we have already discussed in the previous class, one of the important purpose of using this plant breeding is to develop disease resistant varieties. Then how do we develop this disease resistant variety of a particular plant? So we have two different ways by which we can develop them. That is by conventional plant breeding, which we are doing it, which we have already discussed, and also by mutation breeding, where we are going to change the genome, the genes, by using mutations. So let us see what is this conventional breeding and also what are the examples we are having. And in the conventional breeding, as we have already seen, there are 5 important steps which we take, that is collection of germplasm, then hybridization of the selected parents, then the selection of hybrids for the superior recombinants, then evaluation of the hybrids, that is nothing but the testing, we do it, then again we go for testing the hybrids which we have got, and then we are releasing it for the cultivars, that is the formals. So the new variety with the desired resistant against a specific pathogen, like maybe some specific fungi, maybe a specific virus, is going to be developed like this. We have developed so many varieties of plants which are resistant against the diseases. Just now in the last class we have seen how the wheat is affected by the leaf and stripe rust and also hill burnt disease. So we have a variety which has been developed here, which we call it as Himagiri variety, and this particular table is very important from the point of view of your NEET examinations and all, where they have asked the different examples for the resistant against a specific disease here. Brassica, which is nothing but mustard, we are having. So Pusa Swarnim is the variety which has been developed, I will be showing you now, developed against white rust. You can just have a look at this table. Okay, cauliflower, cowpea and also chili. For that we have different varieties which have been developed by our scientists. So you can see it is the wheat plant variety called Himagiri. This is resistant against leaf and also stripe rust. You can see the leaf and also stripe rust. This is one variety. Then secondly it is Brassica gynecea, that is Pusa Swarnim. Pusa name, do you know why Pusa is given in many cases here? Pusa. It is the locality in Delhi where our premier research institute, that is IARI, Indian Agricultural Research Institute, is located in New Delhi. That is the location, area in New Delhi. So where IARI, Indian Agricultural Research Institute, is located, this IARI has contributed a lot in the research field so as to develop these new varieties of plants against these diseases. You can see the white rusting you can find here, and this affects the plants to a greater extent, and we have got Pusa Swarnim is the variety. These names are very important, the variety names. Then you can see, you might have seen the cauliflower with this black color, that is because of a disease called black rot. So this particular problem has been addressed by developing a variety called Pusa Shubra. You can see the difference between the disease resistant variety and also the disease affected variety. This is how the plant breeding plays very important role here. And you can find in the case of cowpea, it is the bacterial blight caused by bacteria, and this we have developed a variety called Pusa Kamal. So our country has developed this Pusa Kamal variety which is resistant against bacterial blight. Then in Chile, that is affected by tobacco mosaic virus. Okay, especially whenever they are affected by, they are exposed to more cold conditions and all. You can see this one. Wetness if or dampness is more, they are affected much in this case. Now we have a variety called Pusa Sadabahar variety which is developed by IRI. Okay, so which is resistant against this disease. You can see the leaves structure of the disease resistant variety Pusa Sadabahar and also the variety which is not resistant here. So quite naturally it affects the yield of the crop plant here. And then what is this mutation which is used in plant breeding? Already you have studied in your molecular biology classes about mutation. What is mutation? What is mutation then? So it is nothing but changing the genome. Changing the DNA sequence is what we call it as mutation. That can be either done by us or by naturally also it can happen. There are many natural agents responsible for mutation, like maybe X-rays are there. There are so many chemicals which are there. Radioactive radiations are there which are causing mutations in the nature. And apart from that, so many poisonous chemicals which are causing a lot of pollutions like air pollution, water pollution and all. And pesticides, fertilizers, they are all mutation causing agents. What do you call those mutation causing agents? What is the name given for the agents responsible for causing mutation? They are called mutagens. In this mutation can be used favorably also. We have been using this mutation for our advantage in many cases. You can just have a look at this, what exactly is mutation. A point mutation, you have the sequence, let me say A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Of course, we are having the nucleotide sequence. For easy understanding, we are given the alphabetical order, that's all. And A, B, C, D, E, F, G is there. And what we do is, we are going to delete this C and D. And what will be the sequence you see when we delete this? A, B, E, F, G. The C, D is lost. Deletion means you are removing it. This can be done by using some chemicals. What did we call those chemicals? Those chemicals are called mutagens. So you can see this is what we call it as mutation. Here mutation has happened. The original sequence, you can see the difference in the new sequence here. So there is difference between the original and also the new sequence of the nucleotides. Okay. So then we can go for even translocation or we can go for inversion where we are reversing it, the sequence here. Instead of A, B, C, D, E, E, D, C it will become. So they are going to exchange. That we call it as inversion which is happening here. Okay. So like this the mutations can happen. And what are the steps which are involved in this case here? We can see the DNA which is there. What they do is they are going to extract the DNA, you can see, and that will be exposed to the mutagens like gamma rays. You can use anything, any mutagen can be used, but normally in the mutation breeding they go for gamma rays here. And these gamma rays bring about the changes. You can see the cuttings which have been kept in this case here, they undergo the mutation because of which they are going to have adventitious shoots regeneration which was not there earlier. Like this, mutation breeding can be brought about here. And here, 1 minute, you can see here, so this gene is going to be altered by using the mutagens, and that can be cloned, and thereby they culture it and they develop with the help of tissue culture, okay, which is a form of vegetative propagation. So like this we can go for mutation breeding, where we are going to change the genome by using mutations. It can be done immediately. This mutation breeding is very fast when compared to the conventional breeding. There is an advantage of mutation breeding. For that we have to use some mutagens. Then this is another picture showing the chemically mutagenized seeds. The seeds have been changed, they have been mutated in this case. You can see the example of the one which is affected by the rods here, and then one which is there. This is the mung beans we can have, that is green gram. Okay, it is affected by, you can see the powder like structure which is there. It is called powdery mildew disease, and this is the free from one. This is the one which has got through mutation. You can see this is against, you can see the spots which are there. This is the affected plant. The one which is prone for virus, you can see this is called yellow mosaic virus. Yellow mosaic virus is causing the disease. And this yellow, so the first one is powdery mildew, which we have seen, and this is powdery mildew. This one is the one affected by yellow mosaic virus. So you can see the one free from this yellow mosaic virus. This is the green gram mung bean. Okay. Then we have some of the wild varieties of plants are there. What they do is they are going to use these genes which have resistance against the diseases or the pathogens, so as to develop a variety which is resistant against the diseases. For example, this is Abelmoschus esculentus, that is lady's finger, which is commonly called bindi, affected by yellow mosaic viral disease. You can see here. So now they have developed a variety. You can see the leaves which are very healthy, and also you can see very good yield, and also the flowers also you can see. It is the variety called Parbhani Kranti, a variety of bindi which is developed against yellow mosaic virus. So this is the variety which has been developed by using the genes from wild variety. Wild variety we are not cultivating, in spite of which it is having certain pathogen resistant genes in them. So they are being used in this case here. Here the role of biotechnology comes into picture here. So biotechnology is having a very important role in the field of agriculture also, especially nowadays. So we are able to develop so many varieties in this. And let us see the next. We have so many insect pests, especially from the insects, that is phylum Arthropoda, which are causing severe damage to the productivity in the entire world. It is said that almost 25 to 30% of the crop losses in the world is because of the insect pests. So let us see how the plant breeding can be used for developing resistance to these insect pests. Naturally, many plants are having their own mechanism, either structural one, that is a morphological, or physiological, which is also called biochemical adaptations are there. If you look at this one, many plants are having the hairy leaves. In the case of tomato, you might have seen. In the case of maize, you might have seen. So like that, they are having hairy leaves. So because of the hairy leaves, the insects cannot feed on them. They cannot grow. They become hindrance to the insectia. In some cases like wheat, they have solid stem. Because of the solid stem, they cannot be preferred by any sand fly. So they cannot suck the nutrients from the plants here. That's why the solid stem is there. That is an adaptation which is there in the case of plants. That is the morphological adaptation. And we have some cases like the cotton. The cotton is affected by bollworm, and they have smooth leaved and also nectarless cotton which do not attract the bollworm. So then we have the plant breeding for developing the resistance against the insect pests. We are having examples like so we have cotton which is resistance to the jossettes. These are one of the major insects which are causing havoc in the field of agriculture by damaging many plants here. And high aspartic acid is there, that is and also low nitrogen and low sugar content in maize is resistant to stem borers. These are all the physiological adaptations you can see here. These are the stem borers. And we have developed some, they are all naturally available. We have developed some varieties which are having resistance against these insect pests. You can have a look at this one. Again, I told you it is the contribution by IARI. So we have Brassica Jinxia, that is rapeseed mustard. The IARI has developed a variety against these aphids. These are the aphids which affect the one. This is the variety which was developed by IARI, which we call it as Pusa Gaurav. Pusa Gaurav variety of Brassica, which is resistant against the aphids. Then in the flat bean, which are affected by the jossettes and also aphids, we have a variety called Pusa Sem variety. In that we have Pusa Sem 2 and also Pusa Sem 3 varieties. So two varieties have been developed here by IARI, Pusa Sem 2 and also Pusa Sem 3. Then in Bendi, that is okra, we have the fruit borers and also the shoot borers. So this Bindi is affected by shoot borer and also fruit borer. It is very difficult to get the one because of the fruit borer. It is very difficult to get the normal fruits here. Now we have developed the variety that is Pusa Savani and also Pusa A4. These are the two varieties which have been developed by IARI. Like this, many varieties have been developed to fight against those insect pests here. Another important problem we are facing in the world is the hidden hunger. As I told you in the previous class, about 35% of the world population is affected by non-availability of food, and those who are getting also are not having enough nutrients in the food which they take, because of which many are suffering from malnutrition. And not getting enough amount of food due to many reasons results in hidden hunger. And hidden hunger is due to lack of affordability of maybe many vegetables, fruits, legumes, meat, fish and other things. So in this, what to be done here? So for that we need to have the food items which are having better nutrients in them. which is done by a process called biofortification. The food which we eat should have enough quantity of vitamins, minerals, proteins, roughages, and all the contents which are there here. So what is biofortification then? Fortify means increase here. In this, we are increasing the contents like vitamins, minerals and proteins in the crops through the plant breeding. And as we know, the aim of this biofortification is to improve the nutritional quality of the crop. What are the objectives of biofortification? To increase protein content and also quantity. Secondly, it is to increase oil content and quantity, vitamin content and also of course the quantity in that, then micronutrients and mineral content. These are the four main objectives of biofortification. Ultimately, it is to improve the nutritional value of the food which we eat. Then we have different varieties which have been developed here. So this is hybrid maize having two important amino acids in double the quantity, that is lysine and also tryptophan, have been increased twice when compared to the normal variety of maize, lysine and also tryptophan. This is hybrid maize. Then we have wheat variety called Atlas 66, which is having very high protein content. Then another major problem we face is the problem with anemia we are facing in the world. So it is because of the less amount of iron in the food items. Then for providing that, we are going for iron fortified rice. So they have developed this iron fortified rice, which is also called golden rice. Because of the color, the appearance, it is called golden rice, which is rich in beta carotene. And they want to further fortify this with proteins, vitamins, then zinc and like that. Now they are fortifying many things with many nutrients in this case. So these are some of the examples which have been given in this case. So how this iron fortified rice has been obtained, you can see in this. And this is IARI, which is there in Pusa area of New Delhi. This is the hub of all the plant breeding and most of the experiments which are done, and the area which is contributing much for Green Revolution. We can see the video of this IARI and this contribution that is given separately also. And you can see the latest biofortified crops which are available in the market, like cassava, protein A rich, beans iron rich, maize provitamin A rich, pearl millet rich in iron, sweet potato rich in provitamin A, rice rich in zinc, wheat rich in zinc. So we have different varieties which are there. They are all biofortified. And we have vitamin A rich in carrot, spinach and also pumpkin. Then vitamin C enriched bitter gourd, batua, mustard and also tomato. Iron and calcium enriched spinach and also batua. This is the batua leaves, you can see, spinach, which is commonly called pollock. Protein enriched broad beans, you can say, lub, French beans and also garden peas. So they are all rich in proteins. They have been biofortified to have more proteins here. We can have a look at the list of varieties of crop plants which have been biofortified by Indian Agricultural Research Institute, that is IARI. We are having so many things. You can see Pusa is the name given for most of the things because of the location. So bitter gourd, Pusa hybrid one, rich in vitamin C, calcium, iron, like that. So this is about the biofortification which is there. And apart from that, we can get the nutrients from other sources like some bacteria. So, we are going to have protein enriched producers from these bacteria or maybe some microbes. That we call it as single cell protein, SCP, they commonly called SCP. You can see a bacteria. This is a bacterium called Spirulina bacteria. You can see this is the product. You can use it in the powder form or maybe in the form of tablet. What they do? What is that actually? How do we get it? This spirulina is the bacteria which can be used to decompose the waste water from potato processing unit or maybe straw for waste plants. You can even use molasses from the sugar industries and animal manure, even human fecal matter can also be used here, and even they can use the sewage water, whatever the waste which is having organic matter can be used to grow spirulina. And this spirulina is going to have lot of proteins and also that is the amino acids in them. You can look at this one. And since we are using the waste here and the multiplication of this spirulina is very fast, so we are going to get more quantity of proteins within short time and without much investment. That is the thing which we are having here. And we have another bacteria called Methylophilus methylotrophus bacteria. If you take 250 gram of this Methylophilus methylotrophus bacteria, it can produce about 25 tons of proteins. 250 gram of Methylophilus methylotrophus gives us, yields us about 25 tons of protein, wherein 250 kg of cow can give us only 200 gram of protein. You can look at the rate at which they can give us the nutrients. And mushroom, we have been using it as a food, where this mushroom, which comes under fungi, is grown on dead and decaying matter. In all these cases here, so the dead and also waste organic matter can be used for producing or for getting the products here. Then we have the advantages. It is rich in proteins and they have very less fat content, and they reduces pressure on the agriculture production, and especially we are doing it in the laboratories also we can do it, and we are making use of the waste in this case. Then another one important process which we use to multiply the plants, especially the one with the desired traits, is by using plant tissue culture. So wherein we get some portion of the plant, we get the cells of the plant, and that plant we call it as explant, and those cells can be used to get many plants. So we choose a plant which is having the desired traits, and the vegetative cells, the vegetative part of the plant is taken, where the cells are there, they are going to be grown in the artificial nutrient medium, which we call it as in vitro medium. That's why it is said to be a technique of growing isolated plant cells or tissues in an artificial nutrient medium or in vitro into a plant, where we can produce thousands of plants at a time. So here we make use of the explant. As I told you already, the plant is nothing but the part of the plant which is extracted for initiating the culture. And this particular explant is going to be taken in the nutrient medium containing sugar and also some of the hormones and all, and they are able to generate these cells. The vegetative cells are able to generate into a whole plant. That is a complete plant, and that ability of these cells to generate a complete plant is what we call it as totipotency. It is called totipotency. That is the characteristic feature which is used in tissue culture. We use explant and also the property of totipotency used here. And they are able to multiply. You can just have a look at the different stages here. So we have taken a portion of the plant which we call it as explant, that is taken in the nutrient medium. So they start multiplying, they form the callus, plural is calli, and that callus is made into pieces here and they are going to be grown into plantlet. Like this, many plantlets you can see here. This is the culture room where they are growing and they are using the different materials for this. Especially the horticultural croplands like banana and all are cultured by using this tissue culture. And what is the advantage of using this? You can just have a look at this again. This is the explant which is taken in the artificial nutrient medium. You can see the plantlets which come out here. These are all the plantlets. Since they are done in the laboratory, they are also called in vitro method, in vitro culture. So the nutrient medium, as I told you, they contain sucrose, that is sugar, then inorganic salts, vitamins will be there, amino acids and also growth regulators. Normal growth regulators are auxins and also cytokinins, and from that, as I told you, we can grow thousands of plants which we call it as micro propagation. The tissue culture is called micro propagation because thousands of plants you can get from the eggplant. Small plant will be there and each cell can be grown into one plant. That's why it is called micro propagation. Then that's why here these plants which are obtained are going to be similar to the parents here because we are getting the vegetative part of it. That's why they are said to be soma clones which are genetically identical to the original plants. So they are all called soma clones. Tissue culture is also called soma cloning. Cloning is nothing but multiplication. You can see the other useful aspect which we use for which we use this tissue culture is if we are having a plant which is diseased but it may be having a very good yield. So we have meristematic region which is not affected by the viruses or maybe some pathogens normally. That meristematic region will be very healthy in that case. What they do is they take out that meristematic region and they go for meristem culture from which they can get thousands of plantlets and then into plants here. So thereby, so the one with, even though the plant is affected by the virus, we can get thousands of plants by using this tissue culture. This we call it as meristem culture also. So this is the one which we have in the case of tissue culture. And now another method is there where we have two plants, two different plants which are belonging to two different species. So we try to bring both the characters together so that we have some advantage. For example, tomato is having juice, potato is having a very good shelf period. So tomato has very less shelf life, potato is not juicy. We want to have both here. For that, we go for a method called somatic hybridization. Just like the breeding, here the somatic hybridization refers to the fusion of the cells, not the protoplast of the two different species of plants are brought to get a new plant. That we call it as somatic hybridization. Fusion of protoplasts from different genotypes to bring about genetic recombination is what we call it as somatic hybridization. How exactly we do it? So again you can see the isolated protoplasts from two different varieties of plants, each having desirable characters, are going to be fused here. And these hybrids are called somatic hybrids. while the process is called somatic hybridization. So as I told you, we have the example of tomato and also potato. So let us see how exactly it is done. You can see the cells from both potato and also tomato are separated, and the cell wall is digested by using cellulase you can say, the cellulose digesting enzymes, and then the protoplasts are exposed and both the protoplasts are brought together in this case. So you can see they form the somatic cell hybrids in this case, and they develop into this one, the one with both the tomato and also potato characteristics. That resulted in, you can see this one, that resulted in tomato. You can see both potato and also tomato, which we call it as tomato. This we call it as somatic hybridization. Somatic hybridization. You see the beauty of biology. Through plant breeding, we can combine the characteristics of two different plants to get both potato and also tomato. This tomato is having very good shelf life, and this potato is a bit juicy compared to this one. So this is how we can make use of the breeding to develop new varieties and all. So that's all. Thank you.